Welcome to the Book Fair podcast. My name is Anthony, and this week we have an interview with Denise Cesare, author of Moments in Motion with Love, as well as the upcoming title, I Love You More Than Chocolate. If you'd like to learn more from the Book Fair podcast, you can follow on Blue Sky or Instagram at BookFairPod, or on Patreon at patreon.com/thebookfair. Now, on with the interview. Good morning, Denise. How are you doing today?
Great, Anthony. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Can you start us off by introducing yourself for the audience and the book that we'll be discussing today?
Sure. My name is, of course, Denise Cesare, and I wrote the book. I'm the author of Moments in Motion with Love. It came out during the pandemic because I was seeing the disconnect in the children's eyes and their whole social being, and that's the book came out of me in my sleep.
And how would you describe Moments in Motion with Love?
Okay, so being a speech language pathologist for over 25 years, of course, I've seen students and where they needed, a little extra. Moments is about mind, body, and spirit. Is about self-love, loving each other and loving our planet. And it brings it all together beautifully in this poetry, emotion, feel. Having us be mindful. How are we mindful? How do we take a moment to love ourselves, love each other, love the planet? And how do we do that? How do we do that in this world trying to cope? So this book is a little bit of a little guideline.
And you called yourself a speech language pathologist. Can you go into what that means exactly?
Yes. So I worked in the school system in New York City. I just recently moved to South Carolina. But I would help students with needs, either a speech, which is articulation and different voicing disorders. I have a whole story about that. And then also language development and students that are autistic and have disabilities and all different needs, the whole gamut.
So you have a little bit of background with communicating with young people, especially those who may have a difficulty with getting messages across. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how you were able to put that into your book?
Yes, of course. The book did come out, during COVID, but that disconnect showed me that there's so much lacking. But when I was in the classroom, communication is key, and having joy. Books bring joy to the world. Not everyone is a reader, right? We have to get more readers on board. And if you start small with building up foundation, because that's what speech and language pathologists are all about. If there's somewhere that there's a level missing in their development, you try to enforce that and you try to build up from that. So books do that. And I think that's how my classrooms or sessions, you would call them, kind of led me to having this book come to life.
And you also have a little bit of history that comes with losing your voice and being able to regain that. Can you talk a little bit about that history?
Exactly. So now imagine being a speech language pathologist, and then 2006, after a car accident, maybe a few months later, coming up with some kind of condition that you lost your voice. Now, how do you go forward in the world? How do you do your profession? That's all it's about, is communicating. So that was a whole trajectory into trying to see the light and see what was next for me. So, I have a disability as well. I have a voice disorder. I do have it now. It's called spasmodic dysphonia. And I have to get injections every 4 months to be able to speak. So it's still ongoing, but my motto is never give up. And if you have a message to share with the world, you have to find any way to do it.
And do you find yourself encountering young people that have a difficulty communicating that you're able to kind of connect with on that level through your history?
So, yeah. So actually, I did continue to work, and people find that mind-blowing. How does a speech pathologist do what she does without being able to speak? But, my voice, even now, I'm due to have an injection in soon. But what happens is we speak our respiration. But my point is, when I was losing my voice, I think I myself became more empathetic, even though I didn't realize I had a disability at first. I'm fighting to stay, to do what I'm doing. How am I going to do it? But there are accommodations and there are ways around it. I think I became more creative. I think I had more connectedness with others who have a disability. I think we reached each other better. We had more connection from that space.
And you also said that you are the co-author of a nonfiction book. Did that come out before or after Moments in Motion?
So that came out after. So my publisher was doing this anthology called Magnificently Made, and it's all about empower 33 hearts that heal. There's 33 wonderful women inside the book, and we all talk about some of our journeys, and I think it's an amazing, magnificently made book. And my chapter, my chapter is about letting it be and how music heals in Magnificently Made.
And what was it about music that helped you heal?
That's a very important thing, because music is not only art, it's science. There's science to it. So my scientific head comes out right when I talk about it, because I studied the brain. So music heals me just on the surface level of the lyrics and listening to the words and feeling empowered by it. That was just the one surface level. But then there's the other level where music it's, the music, the song, how it goes through you, your vagus nerve, how you feel different things in your body, the rhythm, the sound. So there's two things with it, the art and then the science. So I have to say, even to today, different songs take me on a journey. We all love, if people love music, you understand, but you don't even have to love music. I think everyone should have their own personal playlist of songs that make them feel joy, of songs that help them get, their frustration out. Just pick songs that serve you. And what I did too, I even incorporated in my classroom sections, even though I didn't realize at the time it was the music that was really putting me forward. I would take songs and just let them read it. I said, these are a artist's journal writings, and then it becomes a song. So I wanted them to really understand the emotional connection to music, that there's more to it than just listening to the song. So yes, it heals me on multiple levels.
And it's wonderful to be able to enjoy music. Even for me, someone who has zero music theory training, there's always the ability to just simply enjoy music. And Denise, I hate to put you on the spot like this, but if you were to pick the song that brings you joy, that connects with you, what would you recommend someone listen to get an idea of the snapshot of who Denise is and the kind of joy that you want to bring to the world?
So Sarah Bareilles wrote a song, Brave. I want to see you be brave. And I think brave and courageous, pushing through darkness, because when we have angst and things happening, you need something, you need to see the light, right? So that song, I love, Brave. I can't sing either, Anthony. I don't know if I have that talent, but if I was able to, I'd be a soundboard person. I would be doing something. I would be doing something.
I was the soundboard person. I was the guy building stuff backstage, but boy, did I, the song for me is by the Canadian prog rock band Rush, and it's called Mission. And it is exactly that, of having aspirations and a passion for something, but not necessarily having the talent for something, and being able to just admire from the outside. It's my anthem. I love that song so much.
That. I have to go listen to that after this. So there was another song that I used to listen to in the car driving home from work, because that's, I had to get through going to work, not my students, but the actual, as an adult, adults are bullies. I know that sounds crazy, but they didn't embrace me with this disability. So I would get in the car and the song by Christina Aguilera, Fighter, thanks for making me a fighter. Even though that sounds so nondescript, those words would just be like, yes, yes, thank you so much for letting me fight through this. So yeah. So I love that. I can't wait to listen to that song that you love.
And Denise, just to take it back to Moments in Motion, you said that it was your first book. What was the process? When did you decide to start writing a book? Was there a conscious effort to it, or was it more just a collection of writings that you had accumulated?
So what happened, as an educator, do we really ever believe that, most teachers don't think they're writing books, that they don't come to the table, I'm going to be an author. That is just a whole nother level. But way back when my son was born, which this book is coming out in February, the pre-sale is going to come in December. I looked at my son and I had this vision in my mind to write a book about something with him. But then that kind of went away. That was 1999, right? But this book, prior to meeting with my publisher, what happened was I was writing a prescriptive narrative for adults, and that kind of came out in Magnificently Made, if you think about it. That's what I was on the trajectory of writing. But because during COVID, this happened, this came out of nowhere. This book was a download from the universe, because I told you, I was with my students. I went to sleep and I prayed for something to help these beautiful children. And lo and behold, I woke up with this book. There were no pre-writings about it. It just came out of me. I had to feverishly write it, type it into my phone. And I texted my publisher right away and said, we have to do a switch with what I was doing, because something that you have to listen. She said, so, I woke my husband. I'm like, oh my goodness, I wrote a book. He's like, what are you doing now? What's going on? I said, oh my goodness, just listen. And I read it to him in his sleep. And then he was like, read that again. And he was like kind of like it moved him he was like thinking about it. And then she heard it and said, yes, we have to go forward with this. And the thing that really put it into motion with love was my son was in college at the time on lockdown with COVID. And I read it to him, Anthony, and he started crying. So I tapped into something. Everyone had very heavy feelings. And when he just cried, I knew that was something that had to be in the world.
And that's definitely something that speaks to writers, creative people, artists in general. There's just an aspect to the creative process that's just so hard to capture, and that's almost impossible to teach. That's something that comes from the human experience. It's so uniquely emotionally beautiful, and I really love that. I love hearing that. And so when you were making that switch and telling your publishers, we need to go for a children's book, were they receptive to that idea? Was there any pushback? Did you have to fight to get this made?
No, she is amazing, and she is all about, like what you just said, bringing forth beauty to the world. And when I read it to her, she started crying. So we're all crying. But she knew, even though she knew what I wanted to write previously, she said, this has to happen now, because you did, it was in you all the while. It's not like, let's talk about the writer's process, right? It was in me. It just came out in a different way. So a lot of people should understand that as a creator or creative, this is always stirring around in you, but it just happened to come out. And I was fortunate enough to have someone who was willing to switch and do it.
And now you said that there is a book coming out early next year. And you also kind of alluded to this about an idea that you had when your son was born.
Yes,
Can you talk a little bit about what's coming up?
Okay, I got to tell you, because I'm all about love. Let's just get it out there. So you might hear the word love again, but get ready. So when he was born, I used to say to him, I love you more than chocolate. Guess what's coming out? I love you more than chocolate. So we went full circle with this book, and this book pre-sale is on his birthday, because, I have to make it, something. It's coming out February 14th, 2026. But Moments in Motion with Love came out February 14th to 2021. So it's kind of an anniversary of Moments. So it's all I think all things need to be connected. So it's a journey through chocolate of a mother and a son, but it's a universal for everyone. And we do a monthly talk about things that happen in January, February, March. I'm always an educator, so I'm taking them on, sequencing, taking them on thinking, taking them on holding on to things that happen in certain months. So yeah, it's a beautiful journey. It's so sweet. And I just love it. So I love you more than chocolate. You're going to love it.
Kind of a silly question, but I love when the conversation gets here. Do you have a specific kind of chocolate that you prefer? What is your go-to?
Okay, so you're very cute. So, generic, there's specialty shops. So, but my son loves chocolate now too. So we became like chocolate connoisseurs now, right? We went from Hershey's, because I do love Mr. Hershey. I love Hershey's chocolate, Hershey Kisses, Dove, all of that. But we have two favorites. So C's chocolate is in California. They have this exclusive, delicious nuggets. Oh my goodness. And then, of course, Fran's chocolate in Seattle. So those are two like fancy, but are real down Hershey. Hershey's the way to go.
I've always been a fan of, especially around Easter, the Cadbury, not the cream egg, but the mini chocolate eggs, solid milk chocolate with the hard candy shell. It's my favorite.
Yes.
It's my favorite chocolate in the world. And they come out with it for Easter. They used to come out with a harvest mix, and they come out with a mini snowballs mix for Christmas. And every time it does, and I tell my wife this every time, we're going to get like 4 bags, and we're going to keep them stashed around the house so that I can have them throughout the year.
So I met my soulmate of chocolate. Here you go. This is funny because wow. And I do love those. I don't love the fills. I only like those. Well, I'm not give me chocolate. It doesn't matter. Well, there's favorites, but I love chocolate no matter what it is.
And to be able to say to somebody, I love you more than chocolate, that they know that you mean it.
And yeah. And now he loves chocolate too. Now he's a chocolate, you can't make that up. But, the Cadbury, it's funny that you talk about that. I used to tell my students the story about the Cadbury family and how it came to be. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about this chocolate book. You might have to come back with me and talk about chocolate more when it comes out. We might have to talk more because it is so much fun, but there's so much learning in it. That's what I really love about it.
I always love whenever there's that educational aspect, and you talked about how you go through an entire calendar year and you're kind of carrying a narrative for the young readers or people that that are listening to it if you're reading it to them. And it's that idea of holding a concept in your head as the page turns to build that memory and that critical reading skill. And I think that that's something that is underappreciated in books that are written for young audiences.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, that's when the speech language pathologist head comes on, right? Because I remember so many students not even understanding the sequencing of the months of the year. When does it start? When does the year begin? They really had trouble with that concept.
It's funny because I had an issue with that because of school starting in August.
Right.
Something as simple as that. For the longest time, I thought that school started in January and that the school year ended in December. And I had the hardest time remembering what grade I was in until like 2nd or 3rd grade.
See? So, there's something to be said about that. I used to have them. But what I love about this is that they'll have such a fun time remembering January because they could go recall everything, every different type of chocolate that I talk about in January. So much fun. It really is.
And Denise, I like to give a kind of open-ended question just to let you have your final words. I ask this to all authors that come on the podcast. Denise, how do you see yourself and the work that you do as a writer?
So I see myself as a I'm going to say vessel to be able to share communication, to share love, and to share joy in the world. I think my mission is, I'm going to go listen to that song. My mission is to bring people to learn how to love themselves, love each other, and love our planet. And I think my writing will show through in everything and anything that I do in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was an interview with Denise Cesare. Her book, Moments in Motion with Love, is available now, as well as I Love You More Than Chocolate, coming in February. You can learn more about Denise and her work at denisecesare.com. This has been another episode of the Book Fair Podcast. If you appreciate the work being done here, you can show your support by pressing like, leaving a comment, or simply following wherever you are currently listening. You can also go to patreon.com/thebookfair to find episodes posted early. Following is free, and there are no posts hidden behind a paywall. The best way to show your support, however, is simply by sharing the Book Fair Podcast with a friend, an educator, or a young reader in your life. I'll be back on Wednesday to cover new releases and the latest headlines impacting schools and libraries. Thank you so very much as always for listening, and I'll talk at you next time.